Before I officially call my case, let me just check in with our court reporter. Harriet, are you there and can you hear me okay?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, and you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right. Now calling proceeding number 24G-0353EC. This is the Colorado Public Utilities Commission versus Style Car Service LLC. This hearing was scheduled on December 17th, 2024 by decision number R24-0921-I. My name is Melody Mirbaba and I am the administrative law judge who is assigned to hear this case. It is February 11th, 2025 at approximately 9:00 a.m. and we are scheduled for a evidentiary hearing in this case. I'll just let everybody know that consistent with commission practice, this hearing is being webcast, and that's the video and the audio. It is also being recorded, and we have a court reporter taking down everything that's being said. So to ensure a clear record, I'm going to ask that everybody keep their microphone muted until it is your turn to speak. And I'll just let you all know that if we take any breaks during our hearing, we are going to continue to webcast the video and audio. So please keep that in mind. Why don't we get started by finding out who we have here today? Can I get an entry of appearance from staff?
Good morning, Your Honor. Aileen Chong, Assistant Attorney General, here on behalf of PUC staff. With me is also criminal investigator Aaron Hazlett.
Do we have anybody here on behalf of Style Car Service LLC, who I am going to refer to as Style Car or the respondent? I'll note for the moment, we don't have anybody who has entered an appearance here today on behalf of our respondent. Just as a matter of practice before we move to the evidentiary portion of the hearing, I do want to let everybody know that just depending on how long we go, we're going to take a couple of breaks today. We'll take one at 11:30, then at noon for lunch for about an hour, and then again at 3:00 if we are still going. Before we get started on the evidentiary portion of the hearing, I want to wait just a few more minutes to see if Style Car is going to appear. Sometimes people are just a few minutes late, or they might have some technical problems getting connected via Zoom. So I think it's reasonable to wait a few minutes before we move on to the evidentiary portion of the hearing. So it's 9:03 right now. Why don't we wait? Let's wait about 5 minutes till about 9:10. Actually, that's about 7 minutes. So we'll keep everything going. I'm just going to probably just turn off my camera while we wait these few minutes, and then we'll get started on the hearing. We'll go back on the record. It is now 10 after 9. I don't see that we've had anybody else on behalf of respondent join us, but I will go ahead and just make the call in case I'm missing something on my screen here. Do we have anybody who has joined us on behalf of the respondent style car? Okay, so at this point, we don't have our respondent. So I'd like to just ask staff how you'd like to proceed.
Your Honor, staff is ready to proceed, and we are planning on calling one witness today, Investigator Aaron Hazlett.
Okay, great. Are there any preliminary matters that we should address before we get started on the evidentiary portion of the hearing?
No preliminary matters from staff. Thank you.
Okay, staff may call your first witness.
Staff calls Investigator Aaron Hazlett to the stand.
Good morning. If you could raise your right hand with me. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can go ahead and put your hand down. Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Aaron Hazlett. It's spelled E-R-I-N. Last is H-A-I-S-L-E-T-T.
Okay, before I turn you over to counsel, I just want to give you a couple of advisements. So during the course of your hearing, you are not allowed to refer to materials unless you are authorized or directed to do so by counsel or by me. If you happen to have paper copies of any exhibits that counsel directs you to, you are welcome to look at the paper copies if that's easier for you. However, exhibits will also be displayed on the screen. In addition, you're not allowed to receive any assistance from anybody during the scope of your testimony. Do you understand and agree to these conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, counsel, I will turn the witness over to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Investigator Hazlett.
Good morning.
Where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Public Utilities Commission in the state of Colorado.
And how long have you been employed there?
3 years and 3 months.
Okay. What is your position and title?
I'm a criminal investigator.
Okay. And what do the responsibilities of a criminal investigator entail?
Investigate transportation carriers that are regulated by the commission or should be regulated by the commission to be operating interstate commerce in Colorado.
And do you have any prior relevant work experience?
Yes, I've been in law enforcement throughout my whole career. I was an investigator with the Air Force, and then I was investigator with the Department of Defense, and then I was a detective with the City of Denton Police Department.
And were you assigned as a criminal investigator to this case today against Respondent Style Car LLC?
Yes, I was.
How did you come to be assigned to this case that brings us to a hearing today?
I actually initiated the case.
Okay. And were you familiar with the Respondent Style Car Service LLC prior to initiating this case?
Yes, I was.
How were you familiar?
I worked in investigation a couple of years ago on Style Car Service. So I was pretty familiar with them operating and their fleet of vehicles and their people that were operating for the company.
Okay. And do you, as an investigator, ever conduct enforcement operations at DIA?
Yes, we do. A couple times a year, actually.
Okay. And did you do that for this case?
Yes, we were conducting operations at DIA, and I had a feeling that Style Car Service may be operating. So while I was there, I talked to investigators to kind of inform them to keep their eye out for Style Car Service and giving them, a description of their vehicles and the permit number that may or may not be displayed on their vehicle.
And did you end up seeing Style Car Service on that day?
No, I did not.
Did you learn any information about Style Car Service as it has to do with operations at DIA?
Yeah, actually, when I was talking to the investigators, Walker Sears, who's the supervisor for commercial transportation at DIA, was in close proximity to me giving kind of the briefing. And he walked over to me and said, "Hey, I'm pretty familiar with Style Car Service. I don't think they're going to be there today. And he kind of informed me that he's had kind of communication either by email or in person regarding operating at DIA without a permit and without DOT authority. And so we kind of discussed that day at the operation.
So, based on your investigation and your conversation with Mr. Sears, were you forwarded the conversations that Mr. Sears had with respondent Style Car Service?
Yeah, he had sent my supervisor the email transactions between him and Style Car Service with Gary, the owner. And then Lloyd had forwarded me the email communication.
Okay. And did Walker Sears make respondent aware of his expired PUC permit in that email thread?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and we'll come back to that permit in a bit. And Investigator Hazlett, as part of your investigation on Style Car Service, did you conduct an initial search within various databases to find information on respondent?
Yes, I did.
Which databases did you look in?
First, I looked in our IFMS database that holds all the permit information for all the carriers. And then I looked up Secretary of State. And then I looked up SAFER to see about their DOT certificate.
Okay, and I kind of want to take those in turn. So at this time, can we please pull up what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 100, the public version? Thank you. And if we can just scroll through the entire document so that Investigator Hazlett can take a look. And while we're scrolling, Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
That is the composite report from our IFMS database.
So do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
I pulled the composite report when on the date listed on the 5th of, or I'm sorry, May 13th, 2023.
Okay. And is this a composite report for Style Car Services LLC?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are entries in IFMS made as part of the regular practice of the PUC?
Yes, it is.
Are entries in IFMS kept in the ordinary course of regularly conducted business by the PUC?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 100, the public version, as well as the confidential version at this time.
Although we don't have respondent present, I will ask for the record if there are any objections to the admission of hearing exhibits 100 and 100C. These exhibits will be admitted into evidence. I do want to note, because we are not going to open up 100C unless we go into a confidential session. So I'll just note that 100C is looks to be identical to 100, except for it does not have the same cover page, which is just exhibit 100 just identifies on the cover page what has been redacted and filed under seal. So they are the same exhibits. So 100 and 100C are admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can we please scroll to page 2 of this document? Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, on what date did you access this report?
On the 13th of May, 2024. I said 2023 earlier, and I apologize.
Okay, no problem. So May 13th, 2024. And scrolling down to page 4. Who is the designated agent for Style Car Services LLC?
It's registered agents.
Okay. And we see the address under that registered agent as well, correct?
Yes.
And what is the email address for the designated agent?
It's Gary at stylecarservices.com.
Is this the same email address that you observed between Walker, Sears, and the respondent?
Yes.
Okay. And so you had mentioned Gary, and I see the name Gary Van Driel down on related persons. What is Gary's capacity in Style Car Services LLC?
He is identified as a member/partner.
Okay. And he was a CEO in the past as well?
Correct.
Do you know of any other associates related to Style Car Services?
Yes, CJ Johnson was a driver, and also pretty person that was intermingled with the company, and Nathan Harris was a driver.
Okay. And or are you familiar with these associates due to your prior case with Style Car Services?
Yes.
Okay. So if we keep on looking at page, oh, if we can scroll back up to page 2. Thank you. What was Style Car Service LLC's permit status at the time you looked this up?
Inactive.
And we see that written on the top half of the page. Do you know since when Style Car Services LLC's permit status was inactive?
I believe it was May 2023.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, May 2023.
Okay, May 2023. And how do you know that it was expired since May 2023?
Due to my previous investigation, that was around the time that I was investigating them and when their decision was on the previous hearing.
Since then, had respondent made efforts to apply for a new permit?
They did apply for a new permit.
What was the result of that application?
It was dismissed.
And why was it dismissed?
They had a pending CPAN, and also they had not submitted a recent inspection for vehicles that are in their fleet.
Okay. And when you say pending CPAN, what does that mean?
So they had a CPAN that was pending that they were required to pay. And then the decision came out that required them to pay certain penalty amount.
Okay. So ultimately, since May 2023, respondent has not been permitted by the PUC.
That's correct.
Okay. If we can please scroll down to page 6 of this document. Thank you. Does this report indicate respondent's history of insurance?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And when was the last time respondent had an active insurance policy?
It looks like the effective date was 4/28/2022 and got canceled 6/30/2023.
So since June 30th, 2023, the respondent did not have evidence of financial responsibility filed with the commission.
Correct.
Okay. And we can pull this exhibit down. Next, I want to talk to Investigator Hazlett about the SOS entry that you had mentioned. If we can please pull up what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 101. You. Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
Is the Secretary of State record for Style Car Service LLC.
Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
I pulled the record.
Is researching respondents via the Secretary of State website a regular practice of the PUC?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 101.
Any objection? Hearing exhibit 101 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, what did you learn from this SOS entry?
That Style Car Service was non-compliant with the Secretary of State.
And what does it mean to be non-compliant?
They didn't file their periodic report that is due yearly.
Okay. Next, we can pull this exhibit down. Investigator Hazlett, you had mentioned that you also looked up a SAFER record. Can you please tell us what SAFER is?
It's a safety and electronic record system with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
Okay. And why did you look respondent up in this database?
So the a carrier can have a DOT number that allows them to have interstate commerce. And so if they're operating at the airport, they can pick up people at the airport with as interstate travel commerce.
And what are the implications for your investigation if respondent is regulated by the DOT?
That they can operate at the airport, but they can't operate in intra-state travel without a permit.
Okay. Can we pull up what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 102? If we can scroll through this document. Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
This is the safer report for Style Car Service LLC regarding their DOT number.
Okay. Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
I pulled the record.
Is researching respondents via the SAFER database a regular practice of the POC?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 102.
Any objection to the admission of hearing exhibit 102? Hearing exhibit 102 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, what did you learn from this SAFER entry?
That their DOT number was out of service. And then I looked further and it looked like they had not submitted the insurance information to the federal motor carrier system.
And how did this impact your investigation of Style Car Service?
It just confirmed, it confirmed to me that they had not, the information that Walker Sears provided was true and accurate. And then it shows that they should not be operating in interstate or intrastate commerce.
Thank you. We can pull this exhibit down. Investigator Hazlett, I want to now turn your attention to the factual basis of the violations in this case. Did your team initiate a sting operation against respondent?
Yes.
Could you please tell us what the general plan for that sting was?
My general plan was to just confirm that Style Car Service was operating in intrastate commerce for compensation.
Okay. And how were you planning on doing that?
To request a ride request, get a ride request for them to confirm that they would operate and take my ride request in Loveland, Colorado. And it was just to get get a quote for travel.
Okay. And when you say you were going to request a ride request, would you have done that under an alias?
Yes, I would have.
Okay. And did you yourself reach out to respondent via your alias?
No, I'd used my alias, my main alias persona on the previous investigation. So I believe that they would recognize it and recognize the email. So I asked a coworker, my investigator, Amy Roth, to use her alias persona instead.
Okay. Did you yourself write the message that investigator Amy Roth would use to contact the respondent?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you were kind of directing the investigation behind the scenes, although you couldn't use your alias.
Correct.
Okay. And investigator Roth's actions were under your purview?
Yes.
Okay. Could we please pull up what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 103? Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
It is a supplement report that Amy Roth provided me regarding the ride request that she had submitted to Style Car Service.
Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
It was supplied to me by Amy Roth and I put it in the report.
Okay. Are investigator reports kept in the ordinary course of regularly conducted business by the PUC?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as exhibit number 103 into evidence.
Any objections? Hearing exhibit 103 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, I'd like to zero in on the italicized portion of this report. Is this message in italics the message that you provided Investigator Roth with to submit into respondent's form?
Yes.
Okay, and backing up, so where was this message supposed to be submitted to?
I asked Investigator Roth, to go to the Style Car Services website under Contact Us. That's where I wanted to get the quote for the ladies' night to Red Rocks.
Okay. And on what date did Investigator Roth submit this message?
June 18th, 2024.
So was respondent's website active on that date?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about this message and why you crafted it in this particular way?
I wanted to, Style Car Service is out of Fort Collins, so I was trying to make it close by in Loveland to kind of give them more of an enticing uh, look and appearance that maybe that they would take the ride if they are operating. And I thought on previous investigation, I knew the fleet of vehicles that they had, and they could have a company be able to hold 7 people in a vehicle. And I thought possibly a ladies' night would be good because it's going from a location in Colorado to another location in Colorado. So a bar to Red Rocks Amphitheater, all intrastate travel.
Yep. And we can pull this exhibit down. Thank you. Did Investigator Roth receive a response to her message from respondent?
Yes,
Okay. On what date did she receive that response?
it was the same day that she sent the response on the website,
So June 18th.
June 18th.
Okay. Can we please pull up what's been marked as staff's exhibit number 104? Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
This is the email that Investigator Roth forwarded me from her alias email.
So do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
It was provided to me by Investigator Roth, and I put it into the case file.
Are correspondences with respondents as part of investigations kept in the ordinary course of regularly conducted business by the PUC?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 104.
Any objections? Hearing exhibit 104 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, is the email address that we see on this website or on this screenshot, Gary@stylecarservices.com, the same email address that we saw for the designated agent in IFMs?
Yes, it is.
And is this the same email address that you observed in Walker Sears's communications with respondent?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so for all intents and purposes, this is a statement from respondent.
Yes, that's what I believe.
Okay. So did the respondent indicate that he would be able to complete the ride?
Yes, he said he could accommodate, and he gave a quote of $995.
Okay. And in doing so, was respondent offering to operate a luxury limousine in interstate commerce?
Yes, he was.
Thank you. And we can pull this entry down. Investigator Hazlett, you previously testified that respondent's permit went inactive due to expiration on May 24th, 2023, correct? Or May of 2023, correct?
Yes.
And it had not been renewed since then?
No, it had not.
So on the date of respondent's reply, June 18th, 2024, did respondent have an active permit?
No, they did not.
Okay. And you had also previously testified that the respondent last filed insurance with the commission for a policy that was canceled on June 30th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
So on the date of respondent's reply, June 18th, 2024, did the respondent maintain and file with the commission evidence of financial responsibility?
No, they did not.
Okay. So Investigator Hazlett, as a result of your investigation, did you issue a CPAN?
Yes, I did.
Can we pull up what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 105? Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
The CPAN I drafted for Style Car Service LLC.
So do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
I made the document.
Are CPANs kept or made as part of the regular practice of the PUC?
Yes, they are.
Are CPANs kept in the ordinary course of regularly conducted business by the PUC?
Yes.
If we can scroll through this document before I request to move to admit it. Thank you. And Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit number 105 into evidence.
Any objections? Hearing exhibit 105 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, what are the violations that you ultimately charged respondent with?
Failure to maintain and file financial responsibility and operating or offering to operate as a limited regulation carrier in intrastate commerce without a permit.
And why is it important for regulated carriers to have an active permit?
They have to have a permit. It's state law, and also if they're going to have a permit, then they're going to also do all the everything else they're required to have. Make sure their drivers are maintained and they have medically cleared. They have their fingerprints filed, that they're not having drivers operate that don't have a criminal history, that their vehicles are going to be in good shape and get inspected yearly. So if they have a permit, they're going to do everything else, hopefully.
And why is it important for respondents to have active insurance filed with the commission?
That's just for safety reasons. If anything happens, the public needs to be safe. Drive. Something happens, now they're not insured. We don't know that they're insured or not, to be honest.
Investigator Hazlett, did you attempt to serve the CPAN on the respondent?
Yes, a couple times.
Okay. Could you please tell us about your first attempt at serving the CPAN?
First, I sent it through the United States Postal Service through certified mail.
And was that ever delivered?
No, it came back to the commission undeliverable.
Okay. So what was your next attempt?
My next attempt is myself and another investigator went up to Fort Collins to personally serve the carrier. We contacted Fort Collins Police Department to assist us just because of aggressive nature with Gary in the past. We were unable to contact anyone at the address that they have listed with the commission and that are known to be operating out of.
Can you tell us about your third attempt?
The third attempt was I knew that they were operating at the airport because of Walker Sears had told me, even though they were not allowed to operate at the airport, that they had been seen at the airport. So I used another alias to ask them to pick my alias up from the airport. And that's when I was going to serve the driver or Gary, whoever picked me up with the CPAN.
And did you submit that request on that same form that we discussed earlier?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So who ultimately accepted service?
Nathan Harris.
Okay. And this was at DIA for the fake bride?
Yes.
Okay. And did you previously testify that Nathan Harris was a known associate of Style Car Service LLC?
Yes, I did.
Did Mr. Harris acknowledge receipt by signing and dating the CPAN?
Yes, he did.
And scrolling down to the bottom of page 2. Page 1, I believe, bottom. Okay, is that the signature and date that we see there of Nathan Harris?
Yes.
Okay. And was Mr. Harris provided a copy of the CPAN?
Yes, he was.
Thank you. And we can pull this exhibit down. Investigator Hazlett, you had mentioned that you investigated a prior CPAN against respondent, correct?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell us generally what were the circumstances of that case?
Well, the initial complaint was that the carrier was operating vehicles that had faulty brakes and insurance or inspection reports that were expired and not completed. Case kind of took different turns. Turned out the driver, Nathan Harris, had not submitted fingerprints for criminal history check, and then also had not got medically certified. And then CJ Johnson, who was an active driver, was disqualified because she had a DUI but continued to operate as a driver. And then there was information that I was able to get that all the vehicles were not insured.
And so you issued a CPAN in that case, correct?
Yes, it did.
And did that case go to hearing?
Yes, it did.
When did it go to hearing?
In December of 22.
December of 2022?
Yes, sorry, December 2022.
Okay. Was there a decision made in that case?
Yes, there was.
Can we pull up what's been marked as exhibit number 108? If we can scroll through this document, I know it's kind of long, but I'll keep talking while you scroll. Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
It's the decision from that hearing.
Okay, so do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
I reviewed it after the decision was made.
Okay. Are decisions written as part of the regular practice of the PUC?
Yes.
Are decisions kept in the ordinary course of regularly conducted business by the PUC?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as exhibit number 108.
We scroll back to the first page of the exhibit. I just wanted to see the header one more time. Any objection to admission of hearing exhibit 108? Hearing exhibit 108 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, when was this decision published?
June 29th, 2023.
And scrolling down to page 65, and we're looking at the ordering paragraph 2. What was the court's decision from this hearing?
That stock car service was assessed a civil penalty and surcharge of $20,000 for violations.
Okay. Has the respondent paid the civil penalty of $20,000 since this decision was issued?
No, they have not.
And from your recollection, you had testified in this hearing, correct?
Yes.
And you reviewed this decision?
Yes.
What findings did the judge rely on to make this decision?
My testimony, all the evidence that I provided, the testimony of a former driver who was deemed credible in providing, she provided a document that had supported that CJ Johnson was operating after she was disqualified to operate after her DUI, and that that the testimony by Gary Vendrell was not used because he was deemed not credible.
Thank you. And we can pull this exhibit down. And Investigator Hazlett, based on your investigation and the prior CPAN against this respondent, what are your recommendations today?
That they assess the total amount of the fine and that they be told to cease and desist all operations in intrastate commerce.
Thank you, Investigator Hazlett, for your time today. At this time, staff has no further questions.
I might have a couple questions. Just give me one moment. Okay, so I will apologize if I just missed this. I just want to make sure I get a very clear picture of this in the record. If you could just go over how it is that this investigation was instigated.
Sure, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. Walker Sears when we were at DIA during the operation, he had mentioned that stock car service was still operating at the airport and was going to provide evidence through email communication back and forth that he was still operating. So with that information, I just took that as I had a belief that they were still operating, and this kind of confirmed it, and that kind of sparked me looking into them a little bit further.
Okay, let's unpack that just a little bit. So you were at, if I understand correctly, you were at Denver International Airport on some other investigation type business work for the commission. Is that right?
Yes.
When was that?
It was June of 2000.
And you spoke with Mr. Sears, who works with Denver International Airport while you were there. So did he bring up Style Car? How did Style Car come to be part of the conversation with Mr. Sears?
So at the operation, we were there to check all the carriers that were at the commercial motor vehicle parking lot. So we were there to check taxis, limos, Uber and Lyfts to make sure that they had all the required documents. And so before the operation, I was talking to the investigators and said, hey, I just out of curiosity, I've had this belief that Style Car Service was operating and that they may be operating at the airport. So I mentioned to my other investigators, hey, when you are contacting vehicles, at the limo section, just look out for Style Car Service. And I told them kind of a description of the vehicles that they had been operating in the past. I gave them the permit number so if they saw them to know that I did look them up and they were inactive. So if they were operating at the airport, then they shouldn't have been. And Walker Sears was close by to that conversation because he was the one assisting us in the operations, because that's what his job is, in charge of all commercial traffic. So he overheard me talking about Style Car Service, and he said, hey, I had been in communication with Style Car Service. I know they're operating at the airport. We have been talking back and forth for a couple months now that they have to get vehicles, get them tagged with AVI. That's how they're registered at the airport. And that the permit was inactive, and that he also told me that their DOT was not active at the time. And he said he would supply that email. So that's
Okay.
kind of how it started.
No, that helps. There was just a little piece of the puzzle. I wasn't really sure how the conversation with him had turned to Style Car Service. So that's helpful. And you've testified about this email, both just now and I think on direct. And I am just looking at the list of exhibits that have been admitted, and it just might be that I usually am very, very good about my exhibit notes. So I don't have that exhibit has been admitted into evidence. Let me just check in with my legal assistant. Stephanie, has hearing exhibit 107, have we moved that?
No, not yet. That was not requested.
Okay,
so
all
far.
right. Okay, so that's not in evidence. So I'm not gonna ask for it to get moved into evidence. Counsel, you'll have a chance to do redirect. But so that's the email I think that you were referring to earlier. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's pull up hearing exhibit 102 really quick. And this is the SAFER printout that you mentioned.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what SAFER stands for?
It's safety and electronic um, safety and fitness electronic records. It's the database that is the DOT uses, like our IFMs, I guess.
So in looking at this printout, it looks as if what you did was you entered a US DOT number and did a search on this database, and it pulled up the information that's reflected in the exhibit. I also just noticed that there is an option to search by name. Did you also search by name?
I may have. I just didn't print that because this is their DOT number.
Okay, let's pull up hearing exhibit 103.
Sorry.
Okay, so you, in your direct testimony, described this exhibit and that it was essentially notes that were provided to you by investigator Amy Roth. I don't see her name anywhere on this document. Is that normal in the commission's course of business when an investigator writes up a report not to sign it, indicate who they are? Anywhere on the report, I guess, if that's what we're going to call this.
Normally, a supplemental report would have the person's name that wrote it.
Do you recall on what date this she provided this to you?
I believe it was just it was either on the 18th of June or the day after,
Okay.
or a couple days after. I remember exactly, but it was within the day or two.
Is Investigator Roth still with the commission?
Yes, she is.
Okay, thank you. Now I just want to talk about how the respondent was served with the CPAN. I want to see if I can flush that out a little bit. You indicated that ultimately you personally served the CPAN upon the driver who showed up at Denver International Airport on behalf of Style Car to pick you up. And you made a reference to sending a request and pretending to be a bride. I'm not sure, is that, I'm a little bit confused about how that came about. Could you explain that to me?
Oh, I wasn't a bride. I'm so sorry. I just needed a ride. I just said I used another alias that I had that they had not known before. And I just requested them, Star Car Service, to pick me up from the airport and to take me to close by to Fort Collins. So I used the website to make a ride request and made it for a specific day and time. And I got communication back and forth that they would pick me up. I used a credit card to confirm the reservation. And then I received communication on the day of from Nathan Harris that I had actually called him on a previous investigation at that same number. So I knew it was Nathan Harris's phone number. He called me saying he was going to pick me up. And then he arrived at the airport. I was waiting for him. He arrived in the car that I was labeled Style Car Service. And I told him that I was not needing a ride and that I was issuing a CPAN. and explained what that was, and he signed agreeing acceptance, and I gave him a copy of it.
Did he indicate that he had authority to accept service of the CPAN on behalf of Style Car?
No, he didn't. He didn't say either way.
Other than a driver, do you know what his role is with Style Car?
Just that he's a driver. He's been with the company for at least 2 years.
Did you give him any instruction when you served the CPAN?
I explained to him the violations. I explained to him that signing it was not admitting guilt. It was just saying accepting that the service of the CPAN. I asked him to give this to Gary, and I told him not to charge the credit card for the ride.
I don't recall seeing any exhibits in the record about like the email communication that you might have had or to arrange for this pickup. Did I miss that, or is that just not something that was offered?
If I may chime in, Your Honor. No, that is not something that was offered. We do have an exhibit prepared with regards to this requested ride that I can get admitted on redirect if the court would think that's helpful.
It's up to you. It's your case.
Okay.
Let's pull up hearing exhibit 106.
Judge, that's one that hasn't been admitted yet. Is that the one that you wanted?
No, I think actually my notes are 106 and 107. Is that what you have, Stephanie?
106 and 107 have not been offered yet, yes.
Okay, yeah, no, never mind. I am not going to ask about it since it's not in evidence. So I think that covers. Let me just double check my notes here. Okay, I think that covers all the questions that I have. Counsel, you may I guess I'll just note again for the record here, we still don't have anybody here on behalf of the respondent. So there is nobody to do the cross-examination. So counsel, do you have any redirect?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, I just want to follow up on some of the conversations that you had with the judge just now. With regards to hearing exhibit 103, and that's the Investigator Roth's supplementary report. Was that report sent to you directly?
Yes, it was by email.
Okay, and you could recognize that report was from Amy Roth's email address?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And moving on to the DIA enforcement operation, you had a conversation with the judge about the email correspondence that you were forwarded by Walker Sears, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at this time, could we please pull up hearing exhibit number 107? If we can scroll through this. Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
This is an email I was forwarded with his communication between Walker Sears and Gary Vendrell with Style Car Service.
So do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
I downloaded to the case file.
Okay. And are conversations with respondents kept as part of your investigation of cases?
Yes.
Okay, so emails like this are kept in the ordinary course of business with the PUC?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as hearing exhibit number 107.
Any objections? Hearing exhibit 107 is admitted.
And could you please summarize for us what this email thread conversation entailed?
It's communication back and forth between Walker Sears and Gary Vendrell. Kind of started roughly in about April, when Walker was told that some of his employees had seen stall car service operating, and the vehicles that were operating in were not registered with the airport through their AVI system. And then it kind of kept going throughout the couple months. Walker was letting Gary know that he has to fix different things, get them registered through the airport. He noticed that the PUC permit was not active, and that his DOT was not active. So he had to fix those things in order to operate at the airport. So it was communication back and forth regarding all those things.
So if we scroll down to the bottom of this document, page 6, and actually we'll scroll up to page 5. So when did this email chain start?
April 1st.
And if we can scroll down to the bottom of this page, yep, right there, was Walker Sears indicating to Gary some issues that he had with his registration with Denver?
Yes, the specific vehicle, the Lincoln, was witnessed at the airport picking up passengers, and it had not been registered with the DIA, and it wasn't on his certificate of insurance.
And looking above that is Gary's reply, correct?
Correct.
If we could scroll up to see what date that was sent on. Looks like that was also sent on April 1st.
Yes.
And did Gary indicate that he would fix the issue?
Yeah, it looked like he was kind of saying that, windshields get, destroyed every winter, and that's the reason that he didn't have the AVI system on the vehicle.
And if we keep scrolling up, right there is fine. Did Mr. Sears indicate that he would work with Gary to get this issue fixed?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like, he understood the issue. Most vehicles have, if they're operating constantly on the road, windshields are a constant need of replacement.
And could we please scroll up to the bottom of page 3? And in that message on the bottom from Walker Sears to Gary, does he indicate to Gary that that the respondent is lacking PUC authority?
Yes, the email was from Walker to Gary saying that he hadn't heard from him, and that due to the lack of FMSCA, which is the DOT, and his PUC authority, were not active.
Okay. And looking at the message right above there from Gary in response to that, does he?
Counsel, if all your questions are going to be for her to tell me what's in an exhibit that has been admitted into evidence, then I am just going to tell you that's cumulative evidence. This is already in the record. It speaks for itself. However, if you have questions for this witness about what is in the email outside of her just telling me what the email says, you may continue, but I'm not going to allow cumulative evidence.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor, I understand. So Investigator Hazlett, based off of your review of this exhibit, is it your understanding that the respondent was on notice that his PUC permit was expired?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we can pull this exhibit down. And I want to return to a line of questioning between you and the judge about the last attempt of service for the CPAN. So you had indicated that you submitted a request to the respondent's website, correct? To get a ride?
Correct.
Okay. And based off of that request, did you receive communications from the respondent?
Yes, it did.
At this time, could we please pull up what's been marked as hearing exhibit number 106? Thank you. Investigator Hazlett, what is this?
This is the email or the text message I received confirming that I would be picked up from the airport.
Okay. And do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How are you familiar with this exhibit?
It's from my cell phone, and then I downloaded it to the case file.
And are communications with respondents such as this kept in the ordinary course of business of the PUC
Yes.
and as part of your investigation?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, staff would move to admit what's been marked as hearing exhibit number 106.
Before I do that, I just want to see if the witness can answer when this text message exchange occurred, because there is no date on the document. Ms. Hazlett, when was it?
I know that there are other images that have the date. I don't know the exact date of this one.
Well, was it on the date that you served the CPAN on Nathan Harris?
It should be the date that so it should be the date that I served Nathan Harris, which was the 20th of August, I believe, right? 2024.
How confident are you that that's the date? You need-
Just reviewing the text messages says that your pickup is scheduled for that time. And then it tells me that Nathan Harris is picking me up. So this could have been sent previous, just confirming the ride.
Okay, hearing exhibit 106 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Investigator Hazlett, did getting these texts confirm for you that you were in fact communicating with Style Car Services LLC, the respondent in this case?
Yes, because it says your pickup with Stock Car Services scheduled.
So when you eventually went to DIA and Mr. Harris came to pick you up, you knew that he was there on behalf of Style Car Services?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. And we can pull this exhibit down. And Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. I appreciate your testimony. I'm not going to have any more follow-up questions. So that will conclude your testimony. Does staff have any other witnesses or evidence to present?
No, Your Honor, staff rests.
Okay, so that will conclude the evidentiary portion of our hearing. Are there any other matters that we should address before we adjourn our hearing?
Nothing from staff.
Okay, I'll still note that we still don't have respondent here today. I just want to remind you that we've got statements of position that are due on February 25th. I set this deadline early on in the case because I wasn't certain whether statements of position would be helpful, and I thought it would help to have a deadline just in case. And now that I've heard the evidence in the case, I will say I do think statements of position could be helpful, and I would direct staff to address in your statement of position service and how service is proper on the respondent in this case, based upon the evidence that was admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And does that deadline, February 25th, is that there's still no issue with that?
Yes, that works for staff.
Okay. All right. So thank you for your presentation. I'll just review one more time all the exhibits that have been admitted into evidence. Hearing exhibit 100 and 100C, and then hearing exhibits 101 to 108. All of those were admitted into evidence. Okay, anything now that I've gone over those exhibits, I'll give you one more chance if there's anything else before we adjourn.
No, thank you.
Okay, so with that, we will go ahead and adjourn our hearing, and I will issue a written recommended decision in due course. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.